Hey, everybody, welcome to Truth on Fire. I'm Pastor Doc Lynch, and wow, it's been a while. I'll tell you, it's been a while since I've been on doing a podcast, and I'm a little rusty, I think. Sort of, kind of, I'm semi retired, right? You guys already know that, and it's, you know, I spend a lot of my day studying the word and listening to music, watching a little TV, going for a walk, whatever. It's really been a good transition from full time pastoring, which I did for gosh, I lose track now. For well, officially, I came to Connecticut in 1995, so I've been. This is 30 years in the state of Connecticut coming over from New York. So I was pastoring over in New York too. So it's been 35 years of being pastoring, if you count youth, my couple of years as a youth pastor in New York. So, uh, you know, let's face it, this year I'll turn 72. Uh, a good buddy of mine that I've known and hung out with for over 50 years, we still maintain a conversation generally every day, especially around baseball season. Both Yankee fans and uh, 50 something like 56 years or something. We've been friends. That's pretty awesome, actually. So uh, I don't get on here too often, and I often, over the years, I've kept. I don't go on Facebook an awful lot. Matter of fact, let me see if I can raise this thing up a little bit. A matter of fact, uh, yeah, I only go on Facebook essentially to post a daily devotional, which I do. DocLynchMinistries.com, if you are so inclined to try to sign up for a daily devotional, you can have it delivered right straight to your email every morning. Uh, and or you can watch it on Facebook. But whatever you decide to do, certainly simpler to do things automatically, where it just kind of pops up. This thing is bothering. Yeah, and pardon that, but I'm trying to still set everything up here. It's been months since I've been on here. I haven't been on here since Trump became president, actually, and I don't know. I get a kick out of the reaction to Donald Trump becoming president. I mean, I think that is like the most coolest thing I've ever seen. That the guy uh, gets almost driven to the point of breaking. I I always thought my what happened to Trump in 2020 and over into 2021, where Biden actually took over. At that point, my contention and totally my view. Matter of fact, I don't even think I've ever seen it actually written anywhere. That what I believe happened is I think Trump broke uh, under the pressure that he was so convinced he did not lose in um, in 2020 that I believe it drove him to act erratically, and I don't know what happened to him over the course of the 4 years that Biden was president, if you want to call it that. But he basically kept his cards kind of close to his chest for a while, and then toward the end of when he debated Trump, I mean, I'm sorry, when he debated Biden, and and Biden was exposed as essentially um, what do they call it, compos mentis. I mean, he wasn't there. I mean, and I have, I don't know. I'm thankful to God, who I really trust in all of this. I mean, who's my president? Ultimately, it's Jesus. But I'm happy that Trump is the physical president right now. I think it's a good deal. Um, I think I think he's doing an admirable job, and I voted for him, so I'm not ashamed of that. I voted for him 3 times, to be honest with you. I never liked any. I mean, if the even if the and I, and I was a registered Republican, which I am again now, but I had switched to independent for a while. I was never a Democrat, other than when I first voted all the way back in 1972. I was a Democrat back then. I was a teenager, and I was voting in my first election. And Richard Nixon was not the choice of young people back then. Uh, so I voted for George McGovern, and he got toasted. Right, never even showed up. Essentially, Nixon ran the table, and it was one of the worst drubbings in political history. It was a landslide victory, and of course, not long after he took office, it was exposed. The Watergate issue came to light, and eventually he resigned, and Gerald Ford became president, and it was sort of a uh, short-lived kind of a. He didn't win re-election. Uh, of course, Carter came in 1980, ushering in another Democratic state, which up until Biden, Carter was generally considered probably the worst president we've ever had. So I think that's been taken over by Joe Biden now. I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer. I mean, what did he do? Right? Oh, he didn't do anything. He was weak. He was viewed as weak by our enemies, and was taken advantage of by our enemies. So, I started out this morning, not having. I didn't intend this to be a long, drawn out kind of a thing. It's the it's sort of you get this feeling sometimes inside of you when you have the opportunity to go public with something, then that maybe you should say something. So my view, and I don't, I've never worried about whether it be as pastoring a church. You don't worry about offending people. I mean, you don't set out to offend people, obviously. But every once in a while, I mean, if you've been preaching the gospel and pastoring a church for any length of time, ultimately, you will offend some people. Sometimes it's more than just one person's nose gets out of joint over something. You can offend a whole block of people too, where they're all kind of hanging together. And I never really, I'm not against people congregating and starting to form little pockets of friendships, according to your age, or elderly people are going to try to hang with elderly people. Matter of fact, the church should have a ministry for elderly people within the confines of the church, the same as we do for youth and children and that kind of a thing. No small task. Ask any pastor. It's a headache. Uh, there's the physical side, the administrative side of pastoring, which I hated, because you had to answer to a lot of people, especially when you were locked in denominationally, like I was. You had to answer to a higher authority, and you had to prepare things. And I mean, pastoring could be a real tough a real tough task uh, for a person, especially if you're in it for the longest time. Now, I pastored one church for almost 21 years. That's an extraordinary length of time for a pastor to stay in in one church. Uh, one could say, well, you had to be doing something right. Well, I like to think that I did. I mean, I know I'm not one of those guys that, you know, in circumspect, constantly go back over because, I'm out of there now. I mean, I pastored that church, like I said, for from 1995 to almost through uh, 2015. And then I put in my papers for retirement. And I'll be honest with you. I mean, the church, churches have ups and downs for sure. And believe me, I went through my ups and downs with the church I pastored for over 20 years in Danbury, Connecticut. And I lived in Danbury, Connecticut, and eventually bought a house here in New Milford, Connecticut. And when I retired and I call it retired, I mean, the church was just doing very poorly at the end. I don't know why. It just started leaking people, and when you leak people, you leak their offerings, which the church runs on, and that's where it ended up. See, by my genius thought was if I could put in my retirement for Social Security, then I would start collecting Social Security, which I did, and which I still do. And the church I pastor now is very small, and I don't take any formal salary. I don't get paid to do that. I will extract expenses at times for certain things, of course. And if we're going to buy something for the church, whatever, if we need supplies, of course. But my living is on Uncle Sam's dime now. And my wife, we're both collecting, and that's how we live. You know what I always say? We do better sometimes, because especially during COVID, when COVID hit, I'll tell you what, people were struggling, and there was all kinds of issues with the banks and people getting their money, and you know what? Uncle Sam made sure my Social Security was in my account every month, and I had no complaints during any of that. And I say God took care of us, but God knew what He was doing. It was a tenuous moment when I had to try to decide what to do with the church that I was pastoring, and it had failed completely. And then I thought it through: who's going to pay to keep the heat on? Who's going to pay to keep the lights on? See, there was no money coming in, so I had to just bail. I mean, it was as good a time as any to inform the district superintendent that I was leaving, and I have to laugh when and it's something a district superintendent would say to his pastor. Uh, maybe we should gather the board together and I'll meet with them. We see if we can straighten this out. And I'm like, sir, I don't think you're following me. There is no board, and there is no congregation. They're gone. And that was sort of like a cold water, to the face kind of a thing. I don't think he realized how bad it really was. So it was a done deal in my mind. And really, I had no desire to try to make it work any further. It would have taken a Herculean effort. We would have had to pack in like a whole new congregation of people. You just don't snap your finger and people start coming. So it took years to build that church. When I took that church over, it was struggling bad, and there were times it continued to struggle, but then there was times we had great people, good givers, and the church was, pretty much it could only hold 80 people packed in. So there were times when it approached that, and then there was times when it dipped, and it was times when it was hard to try to find a treasurer, or try to find another board member. It's, I guess my point is not to deter people, but I like what I'm doing now much better than I did then. I only wish there was more people. And I hope, and I'm still believing that people will come in. I invite people to come, but right now if we had 15 people on a Sunday, that would be good. Generally it's in the 12 range, but these are on fire people that never miss a Sunday, are great givers, pay the bills. It's incredible. And I don't have a church board. I don't have any of that stuff that I had to try to work with. And nobody's nipping at my heels to do something. We're just there. It's essentially a preaching point is what's going on here. And so we're good, and I'm good. I'm just saying, and I'm taking this time just to kind of say, hey, I'm good. My online ministry is okay. I mean, I put up a devotional every day on several of the social media sites, and I'm getting the word out to people, and that's why I've been doing this for the last almost 40 years now. And it's hard to believe, but I'm useful as long as God sees me as that, and He intends to use me, that I'm willing to serve whatever He asks me to do, and I keep an open ear to that. Getting back to the, I think I put in a heading of what the video is going to be, and how's your day going? My day essentially go pretty good, with my wife and I. Thank goodness we're getting back into the warmer weather now. We'll resume our walking outside, and that's going to be beneficial to the both of us. So, I really look forward to that, and I look forward. Spring has sprung, and it's beautiful, and it's still a little chilly, but that's okay. Better than the freezing cold, and better than the snow. So I thank God for the good days here. And but let's just talk for a moment. I'm struggling for a topic here a little bit. I just knew I felt compelled to get on here, and I guess I'm just trying to say I'm a little bit appalled at the confrontational nature of people that we elect into government. Now, not the people that I elect, because I'm not electing any Democrats. I'm not a Democrat. I am officially a Republican. And that's not to say if something came along, I'm not a dyed in the wool, hardcore Republican. I lean far toward the right. I would, if I was going to be radical, it would be in that direction for sure. I have nothing in common with those on the left. I'm equally appalled at the people that I see that I thought, you think you know. And maybe that's because we don't say anything. So nobody really knows what I think. I don't put anything on social media politically. I don't, because it's going to attract a nasty element, and that's par for the course. It typifies what's going on in Washington, in the Capitol. What's happening there, for goodness sakes? I mean, are these people crazy? They're the recent one, a congresswoman from Texas is goofing on her own governor from Texas, who happens to be in a wheelchair, paralyzed for the last, or since he was 26 years old. A tree fell on him and broke his back, and the guy's been in a wheelchair since, and he's the governor of Texas, which I give him an awful lot of credit for. He shows up everywhere in his wheelchair. I don't find that something to laugh at, or make sport of, and yet this woman at a some big deal thing she was speaking at. And she's a representative of of Congress of the United States of America. And don't start making remarks highlighting the fact that the man's in a wheelchair and not in a nice way. And I find that reprehensible. Uh, and listen, everybody has their days, when they say something that they wish they could take back. Uh, that's why this Donald Trump that's in office now, a little bit different than the previous Donald Trump. He learned something, I think, in 4 years previous as president, and he had to sit the next 4 years out. And I think he learned something there. But now he's back. And maybe the fact that he got shot, maybe that woke something up in him. But he's a much kinder, calmer, not the angry guy, that he was when he was president the first time, 2016 through 2020. And I like this new Donald Trump, and I support him. And I wish that the crazies, they're not all crazy. There's some good Democrats who I respect. There's a guy, Ro Khanna. I respect him. I respect John Fetterman. There's not a whole lot that flood my mind as far as respect for Democrats, because there's a bunch of them that I don't respect in any way. But there are some that, listen, I'm not that kind of Republican that, I'm going to vote for whoever they throw up there. I voted for Trump because I thought he was the man that could do the job. And I think it's been proven out to my satisfaction. Obviously not to a lot of people on Facebook, and certainly a lot of people in the Senate and in Congress that don't think that. Why, I don't know. I do know that some of the plans that Trump has come up with are decent, and I think could help the country financially, and also in a way of protection. I mean, come on, he was in office less than a week when he had the border essentially shut down. And there's almost no infiltration of illegal alien immigrants coming over the border at this point in time. Between Kristi Noem as the Homeland Security Secretary and Kash Patel in the FBI, and is it Sue Bondi? Bondi, the young lady. She's not so young, actually. She looks great. She's older than she looks, but she's doing a fantastic job as Attorney General. I've never been more encouraged. Like the last time he was president, the cabinet that he chose was fraught with problems, right? Remember, he was firing people. He was getting into these really public displays of anger toward the FBI head, or his several attorney generals. I think he was at odds with. I don't think he's going to have that issue with Bondi, and maybe because he's more patient now, and acting a little different. But there is definitely something different there, and he's got good, strong people, behind him. I thought choosing Robert F. Kennedy drove people crazy, especially the Democrats, even some Republicans. But I thought that was a stroke of genius, to be honest with you. And now he's just had the two other doctors, I believe, confirmed now for the head of the CDC and the NIH, National Institute of Health, which I believe is what Fauci was the head of for a number of years, I believe. I can't even pronounce the name of the gentleman who took over for him. I believe he is. I hate to miscast somebody, whether I saying he's either Indian or Pakistani. Well, that wouldn't fly real well for somebody who's not either of them, and you were accusing them of being one of the other. You better get it right, in other words. So I don't know what he is. And then I can't remember the name of the doctor that's going to take over. I believe the CDC. Positive moves on both parts. So this is going to be a good thing. And of course, he's trying to end the war in Ukraine. I mean, if this guy has his way with his plans moving forward, this guy's headed for a Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, he's got his hands in trying to fix the Middle East, working with Israel. We are on the offensive to the Houthi rebels in Yemen. I think we really, really compromised their structure the other day with a all-out attack on their launching positions, and even got one of their heads, Hamas leaders, in the process. So, I don't think we have to worry about Trump getting us in a war. He's really not that kind of a president. He did everything he could to get us out of Afghanistan, and in the meantime, the office of the presidency shifted, and Biden came in and totally wrecked whatever Trump had started. In effect, a smooth transition out of Afghanistan. Biden's administration came in and totally botched it up. We lost 13 more Americans than we had to, in my opinion, and lost all our expensive high-tech military equipment that was at Bagram Air Force Base, which or Fire Base, which they ended up closing, and just left all the equipment to the Taliban. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that we lived under for 4 years. I say that was enough. And I'm glad that Donald Trump is president again, and I think he's doing a great job. I don't think he's ever done a bad job. And it's the same nonsense all over again. There's just Democrats are going to try to, thwart him at every turn, every step. It doesn't make sense to me. And Elon, for goodness sakes, the guy is doing this gratis, working incredible amounts of hours, him and his crew, in digging out the waste and the fraud that's been festering in our government for decades. I mean, finally, come on. Nobody ever did anything about this. Isn't that amazing? No president ever came in and did anything about that. Not Obama. I mean, he would have been the one I thought would have been poised to try to really make a big splash. But the second 4 years, not so great. I'm no fan of what he did the first 4 years, but he probably should have packed it in then, and he did it. He wins another 4 years, and hands over a mess to George W. Bush, right? If I got my history correct here, and then 9/11 happens. So Obama was really a president for the 90s. Bush comes in on the cusp of the 2000s, and of course 9/11 hits, and he's a wartime president almost immediately. And so there he is. There was our Republicans. He gets 8 years out of it, right? And then we end up in Who came after Bush? uh, oh well, doesn't matter really. Past is the past. What we have is the present. We have essentially an 8-year president right now, and he's grooming J.D. Vance. And if the Democrats keep acting like they're acting, even in the let me say this, I don't do a lot on Facebook, but I read and I see, and I don't. I refuse to post stuff in an antagonistic way towards somebody whose political ideals I don't agree with on Facebook. I don't want people doing that to me, which is why I don't post an awful lot of stuff on there like that. But I will voice my opinion, and I have to say it's the people that I know that I see on Facebook that are agitated beyond what seems to be normal. Normal people don't get that agitated over stuff like that. I mean, angry stuff. Donald Trump's your president, and he's going to be until 2028. And if the Democrats keep acting the way they're acting, I honestly don't see them winning anything in a long, long time, or for a long, long time. I will say this because I will. I'm not giving kudos to them, but there are a couple of agitators. Let me put it nicely. There's the congresswoman from New York, very pretty girl, named AOC, they call her. I hear AOC so often, I almost forget I do forget what her actual name is. Cortez is her last name. I think it's Angelica or Angelina or something to that effect. Ocasio Cortez, I think. And Bernie Sanders. They teamed up, and they went out to Las Vegas. And they were doing like a rally. I can only listen to Bernie Sanders for so long. I just can't. I just can't. I can't take his accent, and I can't take the fact that they're using him and AOC are using this term now, like essentially stop the oligarchy. An oligarchy. All right. I mean, you're stealing that from the Russians. Now you're going to argue and complain that Trump's a little too friendly with Putin. I think he's friendly as a fox. That's what I think, if you want my opinion. He tries to get along with other world leaders. He did that in the past. He's doing it again. He always claims he has a good relationship with President Xi from China and the rocket guy from North Korea, Kim Il-jung, however you pronounce it, and Putin. He says he gets along with them. And Zelensky in Ukraine. He said, I get along with all those guys. I have a good relationship with those guys. He doesn't say much about the real violent attackers against us. Certainly he does not get along well with Iran. He's put Iran on notice. If I was Iran, I would heed the warning. They're getting dangerously close to a nuclear weapon, and I don't think they should have one, and neither does this administration. So I'm for it. Do it. Whatever you got to do, stop it. He's rebuilding our military. He's making us strong again that way. He's making us strong financially. Listen, I went food shopping yesterday, okay? And I'll be honest with you. Unless we were completely out of it and I needed it, I was not going to buy a dozen eggs, and I had a half a dozen eggs left at home, and I didn't have anything upcoming that I could see, going through that quickly. But I'll tell you what I wasn't going to do. I wasn't going to pay $12 for a dozen eggs. Yeah, $12. The cheapest eggs I saw were small and $9 and something. Not doing that. So I don't know when that's going to change. I am uh, hopeful, beyond hopeful, rather confident that it's going to change uh, once everything starts catching up with everything. It'll shake out. Everything will shake out, and everything will start coming down. The gas prices are down right now here in Connecticut, anyway, in my neck of the woods. They're under $3 a gallon. So if you keep under $3 a gallon, I think that's a pretty fair. I'm not sure we're ever going to get too much lower than that, to be honest with you. I mean, my rule of thumb is, or my calculations are, once the prices go up, it's very difficult to get them back down, even if the economy shakes out as, okay, it should come down, but then it doesn't. Like once the egg farmers uh, start earning $9, $10 a dozen, are they really ever, no matter what's kicking back or coming back, are they really going to start dropping their prices? Well, I think they have to, is what happens. I think they'll be forced to. If they don't, they'll be fined. Gouging, price gouging. Wasn't that what Kamala made some ridiculous campaign promise on that or something about that? I don't know. Uh, when you got nothing to run on, that's the stuff you start grabbing at. Trump was very clear when he ran. It was going to be the border. It was going to be the economy. It was going to be the military. It was all the stuff that Americans go, yeah, let's get this on the road. And you know what? He's fulfilled a lot of those promises already. So it just tells me I think I made the right choice in uh, voting for him. And I think he won on a substantial. He likes to say it was a landslide. I'm not exactly sure. It may have been a landslide electoral vote wise. I think it was. But popular vote, he wasn't that much more ahead. She was in the 70 million and he was in the 80, or he was actually in the high 70s and she was kind of like in the low 70s. So that it was it was closer than what we might think. And then, getting back to that rally in Las Vegas with Bernie and AOC, they were holding a rally in front of over 30,000 people. That was Trump territory. Okay, when you start doing a rally and you're getting 30,000 people attending, and rah stuff, that's saying something. Trump would hit those numbers occasionally, but not always. So 30,000 is respectable. It would be enough for me if I was some uppity up in the Republican National Convention to make me start planning way ahead to how we're going to tackle whoever they're going to throw into the ring. And to be honest with you, they blew it. They blew it this last election. Trump shouldn't have never had that easy a time, to be honest with you. I mean, Trump did what he had to do, and he was a juggernaut. So that would have been tough for anybody to overcome. However, you know where the big mistake was? Well, of course, it was in running Kamala Harris. I'm not sure they should have deposed Biden. Don't let anybody tell you that wasn't a nonviolent coup that happened. They forced him out. There was no way he wanted to leave. He wanted to finish out his presidency. Good grief, he only had a few months. What damage could he have done? But he was an embarrassment to the office. I think he's suffering from dementia, if not Parkinson's. My wife has Parkinson's, and she looked right at him way back several years ago. She told me, she goes, I think he has Parkinson's. And sure enough, he just went deep in a decline, uh, and became, physically, uh, showing that he had something. We're no doctors here, but you know, I'm not sure if he has Parkinson's or not. I didn't see the tremoring. Uh, like you can look at my wife, and she tremors in her hand, at times when the medicine starts to run out. Um, this is one of the things I'm praying. We've been praying for the Lord to intervene here with my wife, and pray. We pray for her, and ask you to pray for her as well. She's remarkably well. I mean, but there are times, it definitely affects movement and speech and that kind of thing. So it's uh, a classic advanced state that we saw Joe Biden in, and not to mention the fact that he may actually also have dementia along with it. So I wouldn't argue against that. To me, I say, yep, that sounds about right. Um, so I'm not sure where that all ends up down the road, but I think the big mistake came in running Kamala, where they should have ran the governor of Pennsylvania, Shapiro. Uh, I think he could have gave Trump a run, because he was sensible. Uh, he is articulate. He knows what he's doing. He's in government, and that would have been the better choice, but not as vice president. They should have ran him as president. And God knows why they picked her. They pick her, and then she picks this imbecile, in my opinion, uh, this Waltz guy from the governor of Minnesota. No, yes, Minnesota. Yeah, happy go lucky, jumps around the stage, waving everybody, I mean, the guy was a nut. Now he's calling people out to fight them and things like that. I mean, he is. This is. Let me just sum it up. To this part of the argument anyway. Uh, we dodged a bullet. Can you imagine if she was president right now and he was vice president? This country would be in a sad, sad state. They have everything they can to try to right the wrong. I mean, we've got people in this country right now floating around that are terrorists. There are people who are in this country right now who are members of ISIS. There are other terrorists, these gangs that Trump has now designated as terrorist organizations, this Tren Agua, the MS-13, all those gang members. These guys are as bad as any of those terrorists, and they're right here in the country. We're trying to get them out, and now you got Democrat appointed judges on, district circuit court judges that are trying to challenge Trump and saying, "Nah, you can't do that. We need to know who they are, why you're doing it." They don't need to know anything. They're a small time judge, not the president of the United States. They didn't even win an election to get that position. They were appointed. And 3 out of the 4 judges that are giving Trump a hard time were Obama appointees. And what does that tell you? And so when I go on Facebook and I just start kind of scrolling around and seeing like a post about, comparing, come on, you're going to jump on that bandwagon of Trump being a Nazi? Give me a break. Isn't that thing beat out? I mean, to beyond being worth anything. Can we honestly keep rolling that out? Him and Elon are Nazis now. Uh, this is tragic because the man is trying to get the job done that he's been elected to do. And he calls it a mandate that the people of the United States that voted him in as president has given him a mandate to do the things that he's doing. It's we want this. We elected him to do this. So back off. You know, back off and let the man do his job. This crazy what's her name? Waters. Maxine Waters. I mean, she's past any ability to actually do anything substantial, but she shows up at these stupid rallies and I mean, the woman looks like a broken in catcher's mitt, you know? I mean, come on. She's 86 years old, I believe. When is she going to retire? Well, when you start comparing the immigration process and start including Trump's wife, Melania, our first lady, let me remind us, the woman has been nothing but gracious in the stuff she's had to put up with, in just watching her husband have to be attacked day in, day out by people. And, and she's trying to get some work done for the children of this country as well. I think she's been one of the greatest first ladies we've actually ever had. Like I said, she's just gracious and compliments her husband well. And between the two of them, I'm glad and I'm proud that they're my president and first lady. And you don't need some on the way out. Who's on the way out? Well, McConnell, supposedly for the Republicans, he's already said this is it. This is his last campaign or his last year, and he's going to be retiring. What about Schumer? Get him out of there. He's been there long enough. Maxine Waters for sure. Before she keels over and dies at one of these things, God forbid somebody's got to have to give her mouth to mouth. I don't know what you would do with this woman. Foul mouth, lying. They just one word after the other just comes out. And so you're trying to insinuate that Melania is a citizen of this country. She needs to be reminded of that, right? That Melania is a citizen of this country. So it has nothing to do with how she got here, which she did come in legally, as did her parents. And she tried to insinuate that her parents were not legal. And I don't think that's true. You could fact check me on that, but I don't cast it in stone. But it's I would doubt it. These people don't doubt it. They just open their mouth and out comes nonsense. And they don't care if you're going to fact check it or not. They don't care. So, it's up to us to do that, I suppose, if you really, really want to know. But sometimes it's just common sense. So, this is probably one of the first podcasts I've done where I didn't really get into any scripture and that kind of a thing. So I'm going to cut this pretty short here now. It's been 50 minutes already. So, I just wanted to sort of get back in here a little bit. I'm probably going to put this on Facebook. And for what it's worth, it's just me blowing off a little steam. But give the guy a break. I guess that's my opinion. Give the guy a break. He's trying. And he's got a good cabinet of people. And he's got a good man in Elon Musk who is... his stocks for Tesla are actually dropping. These fire bombings and attacks on the dealerships, that's hurting him. There's no need for that. He's trying to help us. He's trying to help this country save money, pay down the debt, which is $35 trillion or more. Get that start to be paid down a little bit. No one has tried. Biden certainly didn't do it. He raised it. We have more national debt because of Biden. So come on, let the man do his job. Let him weed out all the waste. Let him convert it over to paying down the national debt, and let him have a truly, and now he's even trying to focus on pushing along uh, these cures for cancer and diabetes and things like that, Parkinson's, uh, uh, muscular dystrophy, muscular sclerosis. He's trying to push toward that. You know what? Everybody in in um, in Congress and the Senate and the presidency have cobbled this thing along for decades. My mom used to go out and collect for the American Cancer Society, along with uh, the tuberculosis ones, the March of Dimes, American Heart Association. She used to get drafted by these people, and she would gratefully do her job and go out and try to get people to donate to these things. That's 72 years ago, and there's still no cure generally. We've made some incursions, but maybe there's been some benefits discovered for heart disease, medicines for sure. Have kept people alive. I don't know. My mom lived to 92. I don't know. She died quietly and peacefully, as far as we could tell. She died alone in her own apartment that she lived and maintained. Uh, so lived in a nice down in Surfside Beach at the time, where my late sister and late brother-in-law lived, and my other late sister. They all moved. They all lived down there, and they had a great 20 years together down there. And then you get old, and the next process begins. Be ready. I guess that's my closing argument this morning. Whatever comes our way. Listen, I labored through 4 years of Joe Biden. If I can do that, then anybody can labor through 4 years of Donald Trump. And I don't think it's going to be just 4 years of Donald Trump. I mean, leave it to Donald Trump to try to introduce something that gets him in for another 4 years. How about that? Wouldn't that stick in the craw of some of the Dems out there, huh? If Trump somehow finagles his way to changing the congressional law. We used to have 12 years. Uh, Franklin D. Roosevelt, was in his final term, final 4 years of a 12-year term when he suffered, I think, a stroke or a fatal heart attack or something to that effect. And that's when Harry Truman became president. So, uh, I don't think that's going to happen. But if it doesn't happen, then J.D. Vance is waiting, and some other talented Republicans that could step in and give a challenge here. And it might not just be an automatic, crowning of a new king with J.D. Vance. There's a lot of other Republicans that could challenge him and maybe even be successful. I have a lot of faith in a lot of the people that are in Republicans that are in Congress now, are on the cabinet, or are in the Senate, that would, in my opinion, some of them would make a good president. So we'll see where the future lies 4 years from now. God willing, that the rapture will have occurred by then. See, I'm still banking on that, right? We'll get into that maybe again sometime soon. I know there's some people out there who don't believe in the rapture, but I'm telling you, it is indisputable in my opinion, and it's coming, and it's coming soon. My word to you this morning is to be prepared. God bless you guys today. Be prepared simply means you're prayed up, you're caught up, you're honoring Jesus Christ in your life. You're praying to him, you're talking to him. He's everything to you because you're everything to him. And that's the important thing here today. Honor Jesus Christ with everything you do, with your finances, with your prayers, with your demeanor, how you act, how you operate, the things you do in life. Do it all to the glory of Jesus Christ, and he will honor you for it. God bless you guys today. I pray that the rest of this day would find you well, and we will be gathering with you again sometime in the near future, I hope. God bless you guys.